cousins, welcome back to the crib. Your favorite cousin Moni here. And today we are talking about this OVO lawsuit. So please do me a favor and smash that like button, hype this video up, and share it with someone you know. Because the headlines are flying, the memes are hilarious, and the stories are writing themselves. But honestly, the actual court filing might be more interesting than some of the narratives floating around online. So again, please do me a favor and like this video up, hype it up, and share it. Now, let's talk about this lawsuit because the lawsuit was filed by a company called ARI against October's very own, better known as OVO. And according to the filing, OVO entered into a financing agreement worth roughly $5.2 million through a series of convertible notes. The lender claims OVO defaulted on the agreement, entered into a forbearance agreement, made only a partial payment, and still owes millions of dollars in additional contractual obligations. And now, before the Nation of Drislam start typing and beating their chests and spitting all over their keyboards, let's establish something up front. This lawsuit does not name Drake personally. It does not say he stole any money. It does not say he personally owes any money. This is not a criminal case. Drake is not personally named as a defendant. Defendant is OVO. But Drake is identified throughout the filing as OVO's majority owner, co-founder, and central cultural figure. So let's not pretend people aren't going to associate this situation with him. We all know OVO to be Drake's company. He is the face of OVO. He is literally October's very own. So now that we got that out the way and y'all have sucked up y'all tears, what immediately jumped out to me wasn't the debt itself. Because business owners, labels, artists, companies borrow money all the time. That is normal. What caught my attention was the lender's description of what happened after the money was borrowed. So according to the lawsuit, OVO allegedly missed required payments, received a default notice, entered into a forbearance agreement, acknowledged the debt, and then still ended up in court. If those accusations are true, that's not simply a story about borrowing money. That's a story about a financing relationship breaking down completely. And where things start to get interesting is the filing references a separate senior secured loan transaction involving OVO's intellectual property. Specifically, it mentions rights relating to the October very own name and the famous owl logo being used as collateral. So yes, you heard me right. He put up the owl as collateral, one of the most recognizable symbols in hip hop. The logo that's been stamped on merch, stores, collaborations, and brandings for years. The fact that we are even having a public conversation involving the OVO owl logo as collateral damage and debt obligations is a story in itself. Now, to be clear, the lawsuit is not saying somebody is going to show up tomorrow and take the owl off the building. That's not what the filing is saying, but it does raise a reasonable question. How stable is the business really if we're reading court documents discussing defaults, forbearance agreements, repayment disputes, and intellectual property collateral? Because that's not exactly the image that has been sold to the public. And that's where the irony starts to kick in. One thing I've noticed over the years is that with Drake, the calls are always coming from inside the house. Like, let's think about that for a second. Every few months, there's a conversation about someone else's problems that he's putting in his music and taking digs at other people's. He's always talking about everyone else's finances, everyone else's careers, everyone's business, and everyone's integrity in comparison to himself. He's always talking about somebody else's alleged issues. Then somehow, months later, years later, a story surfaces where Drake or one of his entities is facing criticism over something surprisingly similar. It's honestly one of the most fascinating patterns in modern history when it comes to Drake. The man spends so much time pointing at everyone else's house that sometimes he forgets people can see the smoke coming from his own chimney. And again, I'm not saying every accusation that's ever been made against Drake is true. But what I am saying is that it is objectively funny how often narratives aimed at other people eventually circle back around and land right on his doorstep. At this point, it almost feels like every accusation is a confession. You know what I'm saying? It's remarkable. Because while fans have spent years talking about who owns this, who's richer, who's more successful, who's the boss, who's independent, who's not, we're now looking at a lawsuit where a lender claims OVO couldn't satisfy the terms of a financing agreement worth a little over $5 million. That's a completely different conversation than the one we've been sold. The lender's biggest claim revolves around something called a make-whole fee. Basically, ARI says it entered into a 5-year investment agreement with certain rights attached to it. The lender argues that because OVO allegedly defaulted and effectively ended the deal early, they lost the opportunity to receive the return they originally bargained for. According to the lawsuit, that make-whole fee alone is worth more than $4 million. 4 big ones. OVO's apparent position is that it doesn't owe that fee and that the payment it made should satisfy the debt. The lender says absolutely the fuck not. No. And that's the core of the battle here. And that's why a dispute that started around a $5.2 million financing agreement has now turned into litigation where the lender claims more than $4.6 million remains outstanding even after receiving millions in payments. Think about how crazy that sounds. A company allegedly pays nearly $4 million. The lender says thank you, but that's not enough. OVO says yes it is, and now they're in court. What makes this especially significant is the forbearance agreement. The lender claims OVO entered into agreement acknowledging the debt, acknowledging the defaults, and agreeing to repayment terms. If the lender's interpretation is correct, that strengthens their position considerably. If OVO believes the agreement is being interpreted incorrectly, then that's likely where a lot of the legal fight is going to happen. But regardless of who wins, there's already a public relations loss here, because now the conversation isn't about luxury. It's not about private jets. It's not about sold out shows. It's not about diamond records. It's about debt. It's about missed payments. It's about defaults. It's about lenders. It's about forbearance agreements. It's about contractual obligations. And perhaps most importantly, it's about one of the biggest brands in hip hop being forced to explain why a dispute over millions of dollars reached this point. So when people ask, could Drake lose control of OVO? The honest answer is nobody knows right now. The lawsuit doesn't say that. The court hasn't ruled that yet. And anybody claiming otherwise is getting ahead of the facts. But what we can say is this. The fact that we're even discussing the possibility is a major story. The fact that OVO's intellectual property appears in financing documents is a story. The fact that a lender claims OVO defaulted multiple times is a story, especially because he's supposed to be a billionaire. The fact that a forbearance agreement allegedly became necessary is a story. And the fact that the public image of unstoppable success is now colliding with court filings about unpaid debt might be the biggest story of all. Because whether OVO ultimately wins or loses his case, one thing is certain. This isn't the kind of headline that strengthens a brand. This is the kind of headline that makes people start asking questions. And this could also be a possibility to stop other entities, other lenders from wanting to fuck with you. But cousins, I will keep y'all in the loop about what's going to happen next. Aubrey, get it together because it's looking like OVO is broke, real broke. And that's a shame. I'll holla at y'all later. Y'all be safe.
Hey cousin, who you chilling with?
I'm chilling with MONIE.